Holy cow, that's way up close. What's up, YouTube peoples? I'm home. I got out of the quarantine. My test came back negative. Yay! Still stuck in my house, though. Which, I'm glad this is kind of a view, because then you can't see how disastrous this place is. If you can't tell, I'm already high as shit. It's munchie time. I was looking for... We had corned beef and cabbage last night. That actually sounds pretty good right now. So last time, my beginning video, I kind of introduced you into this whole thing with the cancer stuff. I think this time I'll tell you more about, like, how all of this got started. It was 2018. And, like, I went off to school just fine, because I was finishing my bachelor's. And it was kind of a hectic year to begin with, but I was happy to be there, because I had to correct one of my classes, because I failed. And so I took another class for shits and giggles, because I enjoy writing. And then my third class was a different one that I had only got a C in, that I wanted to kind of bring the grade up with. And everything was fine. Like, I had some problems in December of, like, 2017 with my legs, because if I stood too long, my sciatica kind of acted up, but we didn't think anything of it. And then, February 4th, I woke up one morning and I just couldn't move my legs at all. Like, and if I did, it was searing pain down both legs, and, like, my lower back, just about dead center of my belly button. Like, all the way around, just hurt all the way down. It hurt to touch my legs, it hurt to move my legs, it hurt to think about my legs. And so my mom took me to the ER, and they pretty much said it was sciatica, and sent me home with some painkillers. And I stayed home for a couple days from class to kind of work my way back into moving, basically. It was fine, off and on, for this semester. Like, after that, some days my legs would hurt, some days they wouldn't, so I just kind of battled through it. It got worse again middle of March. And it was to the point where my legs would randomly start shaking. I couldn't, control them sometimes. And it was starting to affect my arms. Like, my arms would just randomly shake, and I wouldn't be able to control it for a moment or two. And a friend of mine, a good friend of mine, she noticed that whenever I was having these fits where I couldn't control the shaking, that I had a slight loss of oxygen, because apparently my mouth would turn blue. And she'd sit there and she'd kind of just watch me and help me breathe through it, so that way, I'd go back to normal. And so this one night in March, it was particularly bad pain that night. I had her come over to sit with my daughter and kind of help. She's a massage therapist, so, oops. Sorry, my angles are all off. I'm distracted. She would come over and kind of help my sciatic nerve calm down, and that way I'd be comfortable again. It didn't work that night, and so she ended up calling an ambulance, because at one point I just completely fucking fainted on her. Like, I went out. I told her I couldn't breathe, and I remember standing up, and then the next thing I know, she's got me kind of in the living room, and I had just apparently fainted on her. So she was really concerned. They arrived. Oh, we've been here before. Same people. Good to know. Took me to the hospital that night. And long, really melodramatic story short, they sent me home saying it was typical back pain from the sciatica, and I was just a little dehydrated. That's why I had supposedly blacked out on my friend. Didn't believe him. Got a second opinion back here where I live. And basically I'd seen a chiropractor over break. And I felt fine. I felt amazing after I left the chiropractor. They told me I was out of alignment. The second opinion did, and that's why I'd been in so much pain. Well, I made the bad, stupid decision to travel back for school the day, like, right after the chiropractor. Fucked me up worse. I'd spent, like, 2 weeks not being able to freaking move. I was in a wheelchair because the pain and the shaking was so bad I couldn't stop it. Like, it was to the point where I couldn't sit because it sounded like I had the hiccups. My back would spaz out so much. And so my grandma, at that point, had decided to come and live with me. She'd lost her job, felt like this is what she needed to be doing with her life. Which I am very thankful for, because she was the one that took me to the hospital, again, the emergency room in April, because I'd spent a month with what I thought was a primary care physician who turned out just to be a freaking physical therapist. April, we went back. I had been told I had a different, like, I'm not finding any meat in here, woman. Where'd she put all the... I think she put it in a separate bowl. Son of a butt. Anyways. Really? I'm tripping over shit in my house, guys. Anyways. My grandma took me back. I'd been diagnosed with a different illness, like somewhere in the middle of March. Between the last appointment and this one. Or the last visit and this one, sorry. And so she's like, we're not here about her back pain. We're here about an abdomen pain, like a pain up by her stomach. So you guys can pretty much do a test and make sure that this isn't happening, because we're not leaving until you do. And so they went from, yeah, okay, we heard this story about your back pain, to, yeah, all right, I guess we'll check out her abdomen and see what's going on. This chick's attitude, like the lady I had between, like, this time in the ER, went from kind of condescending and not really caring, because she thought I was already there for a diagnosed whatever and she was just going to send me home. She walked into my room after that CAT scan and was like, I really need your grandma and your kid to step out of the room for a moment. And I'm like, seriously? She's like, yeah, you're not going to want them here when you hear this. And she genuinely looked like shit. You know? We found something we weren't expecting, and it's really bad. And she actually looked like she gave a fuck. And that's when she dropped it on me that I had quite a few tumors, she called them nodules, in my lungs. I had a whole bunch of them down my spine. And my sacrum, my tailbone, had a whole cluster of them, which would explain the leg pain. I am not seeing this corned beef anywhere, woman. Wait! I think I found it. Yay! So anyways, and she's like, there's even one on your left ovary that's 10 centimeters, like, across. It's huge. And she's like, we're pretty sure it's some form of cancer. Yeah, my whole world kind of turned sideways. She left me alone so that way I could call someone. She went to find my daughter and my grandma, who were taking a walk. And when she came back, my mom was confused. She didn't understand because I was in tears, so I don't really think I was that articulated. And she explained to my mom what they had found, what the processes were going to be. That was, I think, a Monday night. I'd have to check my calendar. But she had already set up. I might have to sit you down a minute. Whatever you saw, I'm sorry, I had to open my bowl. But she had already put in for an MRI and a biopsy of one of the ones down in my sacrum, because the hospital wasn't equipped to try and get one of the ones in my lungs. So she'd also made an appointment for a lung specialist, like a lung cancer specialist. So I was like, okay, it's going to be a busy week. My mom at the time was just like, you know what, I'm going to finish this week out at work, and then they're going to let me go so I can be there with you guys. Because she was going to flat out tell them, fuck you, if they didn't. I did all of this shit the first week, all the appointments, set up for the next week to see the lung specialist, because that was the only time they could get me in. And then I had another specialist, the gynecologic oncologist, set for that Friday, because the lung cancer people didn't actually think it was lung cancer. And so basically all these tests later, I get to the lung cancer specialist. They tell me it's not lung cancer because that's not how it presents itself, and sends me on saying it's ovarian cancer, hence gynecologic oncology. Say that 5 times fast the first time I heard it. This guy, I met him on a Friday. This is week 2. I get in, looks me over, looks at my chart, lets out a heavy sigh and says, "How do you feel about having a hysterectomy, a total hysterectomy on Monday?" Wow. Okay, we're just going to be blunt about it. Gotcha. Why? He says, the tumor on your ovary is very large. There's a good chance that this cancer is already spread to the other side. We don't see it right now, but it's there. I want to give you the total hysterectomy now, instead of going only after that one ovary and having to cut you a second time to get the rest of it. Cool. Whatever. I don't plan on having any more kids. I'm 28. I don't have a stable boyfriend. I don't have a stable job. I'm trying to finish college. I told everyone, if I don't have another kid by 30, I'm done. And I'm begging for the hysterectomy because I had polycystic ovarian syndrome. And it would cause my periods to last sometimes up to 10.5 weeks of just straight heavy menstrual. And I was tired of it. So I flat out told him, I said, I don't care. Do what you need to do to help me get this shit under control. Cool. I actually didn't mind. I saw it as a blessing in disguise because, like I said, my periods were terrible and I didn't want any more kids. My daughter is all I want. I didn't care. My mom took it harder than I did. Of course, she was also still really upset because everyone was saying it might be cancer, but then saying, oh, I heard you got cancer. So they pretty much jumped the gun and figured I had cancer, even though they weren't just flat out saying it yet. He didn't actually say that I had cancer until after the hysterectomy, when they got the test results back from the giant tumor that he had removed. My tiny human's home. She's playing Spyro. I'm so proud. Spyro was one of my first gaming experiences. I completed them all, like 100%. Anyways. So yeah, I spent that weekend with my sister. Hung out, got some CBDs from her that she bought special. And pretty much just prepared for surgery. Monday morning, I went in, got gutted. He came in a couple of days later when they finally got the results of the biopsy on the tumor and said, it's cancer. And it's not an ovarian cancer, it's a lung cancer. Go figure. So, he sets up to put my port in and go from there. I I had complications after they put my port in. I had some kind of fluid built up in my lower back that was causing severe pain, and an infection somewhere that we still couldn't find. I don't even remember what was infected. I think that's what the fluid in my back was. But I ended up back in the hospital a couple of days after they put my port in because of it. And I was there for 2 weeks fighting off this infection. My mom was afraid I was going to die, and she was super stressed because she was living in the house that they provide from Penrose for the cancer patients with my child, because my grandma was also in the ER in Pueblo. She was under intensive care because her thyroid, she had a thyroid storm, and it fucked her over and sent her there, and she was delirious. She was hallucinating some crazy stuff. And so my mom was afraid she was going to lose her mom and her daughter within that 3 weeks, because grandma was there for a week. I was in there with grandma for a week, and then she came out of it and got out and was living with them across the street in that house for my last week before they let me go. And life was hell. Like, I have to give my mom props because she did everything to make sure my kids stayed happy while she stressed for her loved ones hard. My first chemo was the paclitaxel and the carboplatin June 1st. They had both agreed. The doctor then and my doctor, who he referred me to now, agreed that the carboplatin would be useful, and the paclitaxel, they already had it planned. It couldn't do any harm. Besides, anaphylactic shock aside, that was the one that caused my hair to fall out and was probably the one that made me sicker than a dog, because this one's not as bad as that first one was. At all. And I think that's because my body was kind of used to the chemo to begin with. But anyways, after that first dose of chemo, life changed, because I was sick for that month. But my doctor now, that's when he found out I had the ALK positive mutation and started me on the alectinib in July. And pretty much from July until last October of 2019, sorry. I don't know where the 7 came from, guys. But from July of 2018 to October of 2019, I was good on the alectinib. Wasted time with a boyfriend, traveled around having fun, went to some reptile things, fell in love with snakes, soul searched. Oh man, I soul searched so hard last year. It was my Saturn return. I'm pagan. It's a thing I believe in. Holy shit, did it really feel like it, because that's when I started going into, actually, no. Well, yeah, I was good on the alectinib until October. I did have 2 rounds of radiation, though. No, 1 round of radiation. Around the 1-year anniversary. And it was on my sacrum and 1 round to my hip, and then my T12 in my spine, upper spine. Stupid window. There we go. Now you can see my eyes. Not that you wanted to see me all chink-eyed, but I had that dose of radiation, which wasn't bad. Like, okay, no, that's a lie. That was a pretty bad shit storm then, too, because Mother's Day, my stepmom died. Radiation started the day of her funeral, which was a couple of days later, so I ended up missing it. I couldn't be there for my sister, and I felt horrible because of it. But radiation, I had radiation sickness only because I grabbed the wrong stool softeners, and I fed myself laxatives for like 3 or 4 days straight before I realized they were laxatives. So that had me feeling like shit. That's when my wasted time on my boyfriend kind of hit an end. But it hit a hard, abrupt end. Like, he just ghosted me for 2 days. Come to find out he was in jail for those 2 days. We're not going to air out his dirty laundry, but just know he's still there. Then my great-grandma died. Within that first week of radiation. It was the perfect shitstorm to celebrate 1 year on chemo. But I came out of it. I was kind of emotionally stunted for a while, but I came out of it. It took the thunder moon, I think in July, for me to really clear the air of all of that. And I meditated with a friend of mine in her backyard. It helped. I found my own religion, my own beliefs, spiritualities, whatever anyone wants to call it. Started meditating a lot more, balanced out my life quite a bit, put a lot of change in motion. That's when I finally put my foot down and moved into my own apartment to try and get some of my stability back to myself, because you wouldn't believe how bad it knocked me out, like my independence, when the cancer hit while I was away at college. I went from being on my own to living with my mom again. It was hard to adjust. I felt like I wasn't going to be able to do it, especially because I had my daughter. There you are. And so I was putting my foot down. I can do this. You know, these things are possible, yada, 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 yada. Built up myself. And that's when I finally found, like, this deep love for myself. Just randomly one morning, I called my sister up, bawling my eyes out, saying I had finally found a love for myself I never thought I'd have, ever in my wildest dreams. I told her, I said, the old me died. She's not here no more. I can't go back to not loving myself. It'd be too hard. I did so much in like a month. I was really proud of myself. I haven't changed. My depression's back, but I haven't changed. And I kind of feel like at this point getting cancer was the only way I could have actually done that. Because, like I said last time, I was a tyrant when that year started. Now I'm happy. I'm at peace with my life. Like, so many things have changed. It's unbelievable. You find out who your friends are. And you get a whole different look at life when you almost die. But that's it in a nutshell compared to what I told you last time. That's how it presented itself, how all of this got started. And yeah, I smoked cigarettes for a little while, but every doctor I've come across has told me I didn't smoke enough to have stage 4 lung cancer with metastases all over like that. The only reason it spread so quickly was because of the ALK gene. But anyways, I'm going to eat now. I've wasted 25 minutes of your guys' life. Remember, you have to learn how to fall in love with life before you can be really happy. I'm going to say that at the end of all of them. Learn to fall in love with your life. Live long and prosper, guys. Peace.